Sometimes you just gotta love it when, like, parts come in and you don't realize, like, I mean, not that you don't realize, but the timing, part wasn't supposed to be here till, like, middle to end of next week. So, today in RC Guy Garage, we got a package that came in from Hot Racing. And it is obviously for the vehicle that you just saw. It is for the Losi Tenacity Lasernut. I hope. So, anyways, there's the part number right there if you need it. Oops. There's the part number. There's the part number there if you need it. It does say SCTE40SM1, so I assume that's mod 1. So, and then obviously 40 is, 40 teeth. So, anyways, hopefully this is going to work. We're going to just jump right into the Lasernut and see if this works. It is a very, very simple and easy, replacement repair. So
welcome to the Basics video series with RC Guy Garage. Today, we'll be working on the Losi Tenacity Lasernut. We'll be removing the plastic piece of garbage spur gear that came OTB stock on the center differential. We'll be installing a Hot Racing steel one. Welcome to the show.
Lasernut, Losi Tenacity Lasernut. We did blow out the spur gear. Very easy to take care of this. You remove these 4 top screws here, which we've already done. Everything right now is just loosely in place. So it's going to be extremely easy to do this. This will basically almost be like a live repair kind of thing. So kinda. Meaning it's basically this is real time. So I think I have to put in a longer screw. I, forget. So, 4 screws right in this center brace right here. Basically attach the motor. You got to disconnect the motor wires. You're going to snip probably a couple zip ties. And then flip the model upside down like this. And then you can take out these screws here, which is what I did. This time I'm actually not going to take out this side plate. I'm going to see if I can leave the side plate intact. But I will take out this screw, this screw. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, screws that need to come out in order to get that. Nah, never mind. There's 1 screw missing there. 1, 2, 3, there would be 4. So those 4 screws right there. These 2 screws should be Loctited. They either were, and the heat from the motor being over 200 degrees could have dislodged or burnt up the Loctite. I'm actually not sure. So we'll just take out these screws. It does appear like I think that's the one that I need to replace. I don't know. But it does feel like it's ready to drop out. Alright, so now I'm going to flip the model back over. And drive shafts aren't in here either. They're still in the Ziploc bag. And now, the motor. Yeah, look at that. I didn't even have to take off the side plates. So, yeah, just make sure everything's clean. There's still dirt in there. But I'll just take a cleaner and a paper towel and clean all in here and get all this junk out of there. But what we need really to do is to access this right here, which is the motor and the differential, center diff plate and all that stuff. So there's 1 screw right there. We're going to pop that off just because it is holding kind of this cover in place. I mean, I could rip it off, but what's the sense of doing that? So it's a small little screw right in the top here. We'll pull that out. And you can see it just pops off. Now this cover plate will come off. There's a bearing inside. Perfect opportunity to clean stuff, but we've already been there. Pull this gear off, and what I'm hoping this is actually going to take the place of that. So we're going to pop these screws out, which is a, what is this, a 1.5 driver. So a 1.5 driver. Pop these screws out. So that there. there. Go after these ones. So the center diff itself really does need to be cleaned out when you look at that. I do need to add new fluid to this. So what I'll be doing is I'll be taking out the gears this time and I'll be cleaning everything up. So I'm going to grab a paper towel. But before I do that, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take this gear and hopefully this gear. I'm not seeing a reason why it shouldn't fit, but... Alright, so now what I'm going to do, so basically what you wanted to do is I want to take the gear and I wanted to make sure that it was pretty much going to fit, like, in that position. And I do believe that it's going to work, but I need to separate this gear from the actual pressed in, like, other half of the diff. So I'm going to use a paper towel, just kind of clean that up, get the diff fluid off of there. Make sure you wear gloves. And basically all you're going to do is press on the gear, like you're pressing it out. I'm going to use the palm of my hand just to press it out. It's actually pretty easy. So you press that out, make sure everything is mint and clean. I'm going to just basically just clean this, just to get the old kind of like diff fluid as much as I can off. I'm not going to go too nuts because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put new diff fluid in this. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to feel like what kind of diff fluid was actually already in here. So you can get a good idea when you reach in with something and you kind of like, that sounds funny, but you kind of like play with the fluid kind of thing. You see what the viscosity is. So I think I've got an idea of what the fluid is. I'm going to grab a paper towel, because things are going to now want to be clean. Pick up all my pieces parts for the diff, because the diff is what I'm working on right now. So put all these little pieces parts over there for the diff. Slide that to there, and slide this in place. Okay, so that screw. So 4 screws. Here's the old gear that got absolutely destroyed. Here's the new gear. Profile wise, it looks pretty close. So it looks like the new gear is very slightly thinner, which really isn't going to matter. Weight wise, obviously being a metal gear, it's going to weigh more. So it's going to create a certain amount of additional rolling or mechanical like disadvantage. But then again, who knows? Maybe it'll be an advantage. Maybe we can almost use this like a whatever those things are called. But I am going to clear out. I'm going to clean this out. Use my pick. I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to pull that diff out as an assembly. Just like, well, okay, maybe not. Watch out for these little plates. You want to lose these. See these little plates right here? Like little square plates. So I'm going to pop out that sun gear. I'm only popping out the sun gear just so I can get the fluid out of there. So just like that. Take a paper towel. Let's clean up the stuff. Don't have to go crazy. Unless you had carnage. But if you had carnage, you like replacing gears anyway, so that's when you'd go kind of a little crazy cleaning. So, sun gear. The sun gear is mint. Clean all these. Looking good. And making sure that the shim is still on there. So on these sun gears, there's also a little shim. See that? clean out all that fluid by just jamming a paper towel in there. And I'll just clean it up like this. Get all that fluid out of there. Can use like a brake clean to assist, but this fluid really isn't affected by much. So, all right, another paper towel, gear, shim, gear and a shim. On these little flat buggers. Same thing right there. Another one of those little flat end pieces. Here's the whole gear itself. Gonna pull it apart. Clean the parts individually. Pen. This is how it actually is on one of the spider gears. So you have that little flat plate, and you also have the shim that's in between, which is basically like a wear point. Clean all that. Same thing here. Don't lose those little square things. Very easy to lose. And don't deform the little spacer or shim. And I'm going to clean up inside of here just a little bit more. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this little sun gear off. There's lubrication behind this. But the reason why I want to pop this off is because I want to check the shims. See what we got for shims in there. And it'll give me a chance to clean that too. So I think I'll do is I'm gonna do like a little photo shoot here. So I'll take this apart like right now, just so you can see. This is obviously the ring gear side, so it's got its own pin, which then allow you to pull the cup out. I would definitely need to lubricate that. Now, as far as shims are concerned in here, there should be an O-ring, which is right there. We'll see how many shims are here. So we've got 1, 2, and then an O-ring. And there's an O-ring on this side too. Check that out. So it looks like that needs to be cleaned as well. Is that an O-ring? Oh, wait a minute. It's not an O-ring. What is that? Is that like a bushing? That's like a bushing. Keep that aside like that. There's no access hole for this pen. That means that it should slide into one of these areas and you'll be able to pull it out. So then on this side, for shims, so we got possibly 2 again. Yep, 2 shims. Yep, 2 shims, pin, and an O-ring. O-ring is right here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, like I said, so going to further clean this out. You could actually take this case, completely apart. I'm not going to do that. There's no need for it. We didn't have any issues with breakage or anything, so I'm just going to clean this little cup out just like that. I'm satisfied with how that looks. And now I'm just going to line these up for a photo shoot. All right, so you can really go crazy if you want. Cleaning out your diff case just to make sure that, you know, all your contaminants are out of there. Take apart the whole case and do whatever you want. What I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to take a paper towel and wrap it around one of my drivers and just kind of get into those little, like, nooks there. Just kind of give it a little bit of a clean. I'm not going to go too crazy here. And I'm just going to throw it on the ground. See all the stuff! All the stuff that literally just happens. Like, normally this stuff happens on a live. Fortunately, it's just happening on this recording. So, I'll go ahead and give it a twist again. So, I'm satisfied with that. Alright, so one of the things that I actually do, so, because the bearings on this are a different scenario, the bearings actually slide over the cups, okay? So you obviously, you know, if you saw it come apart, you know that I can assemble this as a complete unit. Now, what I always do, though, is I use an assembly lube whenever I put stuff like this together, and I'm not worried about the assembly lube getting all over the place. Make sure you wear gloves. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay. Just going to basically just get the assembly lube in there. And for my mind, what it does is it just gives that surface a little bit of help. So I'm going to take an O-ring. I'm going to stick an O-ring in there. Slide the O-ring down. Doesn't have to be like all the way down because the shims are going to do it anyway. Now there were 2 large shims. 1 shim. 2. And now what will happen is when you push down on these shims will push the O-ring actually into place. Okay? Now I'm going to grab one of my small pins. Like that. And the way you line up the pin is the slot where the dog bone goes into is basically where the slot for the pin is, the hole. So I'm going to go ahead, install that into there. Basically make sure it's even. And I'm going to take a little bit of oil. I'm going to drop just a little bit of oil in there. Then I'm going to drop the sun gear in place. And look at that. I didn't even have to turn it or anything. It literally dropped right into place. So that's pretty sweet. So that's all set. Do the same thing on this side, which is the ring gear side. Put a little bit of assembly lube on there. Let it kind of drizzle into the hole a little bit. Assemble it together. Now that's a normal noise because that's obviously the cup just riding up against the aluminum edge. O-ring. It's already lubed up. Shim. Another shim. And then you'll press that into place. And that will basically push down on that. I'm going to do a little bit of assembly lube right there. Just because that way you can kind of drizzle down. Grab my pin. And remember, the pin hole is located the same side as where the dog bone slides in. So I'm going to go ahead and put my pin in there. This one's fighting me a little bit because I've got it going sideways. There we go. Again, just a little drop. This is just what I do. You don't have to do it the way I do. Do it your way. I'll do it my way. So, there we go. That's all set. Now what I want to do is I want to assemble these spider gears that go inside. So it's all basically the same. So basically it's just stacked. So you could do it either or. Like you want to put the spider gear on. I'm going to put one of those little shim plates on, or wear plate. I want to put one of those little square plates on, and then I'll just flip it to the other side, throw a gear on, shim or a plate, one of those little square things, and I'm going to drop this one right into place. So I'm going to put it like this. Now this is where it's going to be fun. Because of the way these plates are, I might actually have to drop in the plates, because I have a suspicion what I'm going to want to do is line these up. So that one into there. And then see, this one needs to be rotated. So what I'll do is I'll take that and I'll rotate it. Oops. This is, I will say, this is definitely a more precision gear set. That is definitely something I feel I can say. So that's into there. Yeah. Alright, how about if I... See, it's always when you're trying to do an instructional video. So let's see if... Let's slide in that way. So it literally needs to go in like exact. So this is going to be a little bugger. Definitely a different kind of precision here. Basically what I want to do is I want to rotate that little block into place. So I'm going to spread it out, rotate that little block, and then drop it in. It's a little bit different. It's definitely more precision, this gear set. Make sure that flat is facing up. And then I will do the same thing for this. Do the same stack. And I don't have to, I normally you don't really have to like flip it or anything, but it's just a habit of what I do. You could just keep stacking in one direction. So here we go. So now this one, let's bring it to its outside edge. And hopefully not have it fall apart. So I'm going to get that one side in first. Definitely more precision here. Gosh. This is Losi for you though, man. Boy, when they make something. So I'll get that one in. So now what I need to do is basically just pick this up. And what I want to do is slide that to the edge. Slide that one to the edge. And then I want to rotate this plate without having it drop down too far. rotate that plate and see if it'll rotate into position. There we go. So I want to make sure that those flats, that noise you hear, you think it's like sand and grit. It's not. It's literally just the residual diff fluid that was stuck on there. So I know that that's meant. Go ahead and I can take the paper towel, stick it in there, and I can now rotate the gears. Just get some of the residual junk off of there. Just like that. See? Now I've got 500K, which that's what I'm choosing to put in my diff. And it's going to take forever for this stuff to settle down. If there's even any in here. Certainly hope there is. So, with a fluid like this, just stick it upside down and let it sit for a while. And eventually it will come down to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to stop this where we are right here. And we will be back once that fluid is actually all the way down the end.
While we wait for the fluid to settle, please enjoy this video montage starring my wife and the Losi Tenacity Lasernut.
Alright, so after like 6 hours of the fluid settling, not really 6 hours, just messing. Like I said, 500K. Just going to put a big blob in there. And it looks like, geez, I wonder if that's like the end of it. So it looks like I will have to order some more. So what I'm going with is, I'm going with 500K. I suspect it was like 100K in there, but I'm actually going to go with 5. And I'm basically just going to allow it to settle down into the gears. Right now you can actually see it's settling down into the gears. It's funny, the fluid gives the impression that the gears are like sideways. See what I'm saying? Doesn't that look messed up? Doesn't it look like the gears are like sideways? Can you see that? The gears look like they're mangled. That's such a riot. It's because of the way the fluid actually went in there. I'm going to put just a little bit more in. Jeez, it looks like this is almost it. It's not even allowing me to... It's not even allowing me to top it off. Looks like I need to get more. So I got to order up some more of this 500K. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Scrape it off on the edge there. That's obviously going to be perfectly enough for this differential. It'll settle down into place right now. It's doing its thing. That's enough fluid in there. Basically all I'm going to do is now roll this over onto the differential. You don't have to put the gear on yet. I'll roll this over onto the diff. Pretty much like that. I want to make sure that my holes are aligned, which I just take, you know, like a driver and just make sure my holes are aligned. Now, I'm going to take my brand new gear. So here's the old gear. Okay, so here's the new hot racing gear. And I'm just going to drop it over the holes. Just like that. And then bam. There it is, literally. I just have to do a little bit of an alignment on the gear. So just align it just a little bit like that. Align it just like that. Now I can just take the screws and go ahead and screw it in. Now I'm going to let this one just settle down into the taper. Just so it kind of like aligns everything. Just like that. It's not all the way down. Go to the opposite side. Settle that one down again, right into that taper kind of like area. And it aligns, it basically aligns the gear into place. You know what I mean? It shifts like everything together. Same thing. Throw it in. And these screws obviously will go in better because everything's more aligned. The more screws you put in, the more everything kind of like shifts and aligns. So I'm going to do the cross pattern. Just snug them down. I'm snugging them in right now. I'm not cranking them. Just snugging them down. So now I'm giving it a little bit of the tweak now that everything has been snugged. Now I'll go around. After I do my cross pattern, just give it a little tweak. And there we go. So technically now the diff is not rebuilt, just repacked, new grease, brand new gear. We can now get rid of this piece of garbage gear that was in there. And we can now bring in the motor. And obviously a slide. Get the dirt off of there. I'm going to slide that into there. And one of the things that is obviously going to happen, check that out. I'm going to have to redo the motor play, because right now that motor play I'm not particularly caring for, but you can only do it once this is locked down. So once this is actually locked down and in place, which I can actually set up now, kind of. I definitely need to go ahead and order more 500K, because that's obviously the fluid that we used. There's pretty much nothing left. And what I want to do is I want to put together like things kind of like the way it came apart. So I'll place that gear cover on there, just like that. It's just going to hold things in place. Put the little screw on. Just like that. And now we can bring the car into position. So I had said I kind of wanted to just kind of clean in there a little bit. Just like that. I'm going to slide the motor in place. Just like that. And what I'll do is I'm actually going to attach the top screws first. These ones, these 4. And I will have to add a screw underneath. So put those together like that. And I will Loctite these screws now. Something I'm noticing is one screw is actually shorter than the other. That's odd. Yeah, there we go. So now that's in place. So I'm just going to toss the screws in there. Not cranking it down. Right now I'm just kind of placing them. Obviously these forward ones are a plastic, so I'm not overly concerned. I'm not going to obviously use thread lock on those ones. I wish this was metal, but I suppose the gear case is fine. I'm going to toss this one in. Just kind of set it up. Then I'm going to flip the truck up. I'm going to install these screws. The only thing I need to keep in mind is that one of these screws was missing, which was that one. So I am going to get a longer screw. I believe it's a longer screw that I need to go through there. So I'm just going to mock that in place for now because that's the metal motor mount. And I want that to basically be in place and aligned. So I'm going to just give that a nice tighten. Then I'm going to take a Loctite and I'm going to install Loctite onto that screw. So put some Loctite on there. Good enough. Give that a crank. Not too crazy. Now I'll go ahead and take this one out. Put some Loctite on there. Cap the Loctite. Now what I want to do is I want to find a screw that's the same size as this one. So I've got this master screw kit right here, which has a bunch of 2 different size washers and a whole ton of different machine screws, metric. What I want to do is I want to find one that's close to that, which it looks like might be one of these. So there we go. Now I've got the 2 screws I need. That's not Loctited because that's into plastic. Now, while I'm here, I'm just going to give these screws all a little bit of a tweak. And they're basically all loose. That one actually has grit in it. So what I do is take my pick, get the grit out. Give it a crank. Just basically go through all these screws, and they're all literally taking a tweak. So that one has grit in it too. So that one, these ones back here have grit in them. So I want to be able to make sure I get these ones nice and tight too. There's that thing. There's grit in these holes. Get the dirt out so I can get the driver in there without issue. Just going to take the driver and continue just basically tweaking all these screws literally are taking just the slightest amount of a tweak. That one actually didn't. That one didn't. So those are the servo saver ones. I need to jump up to a larger size, which will be this. These ones are also taking a tweak. Check these back ones. Yeah, everything's literally taking just a little bit of a tweak. These ones are taking a tweak. I've taken this side plate off. Literally, that's it. Lasernut is now ready to rip other than the gear mesh. So I just want to, not going to believe what I just did. Man, see, this is how you do it. I forgot to put the dog bones in. Durr. So we can take all this apart again. For the love of God, I gotta Loctite those anyway, so. So we'll put it on the timer. This is going to actually take a little bit longer. Tip this down. Take out my dog bones. Then I put in a Game Changer Ziploc bag. Short one in the front, long one in the back. So I'll feed in the front one first, maybe. Bring it like that. Basically just take this whole thing and slide it out. Slide the dog bone into the front cup, like that. Slide it into the gear set. Rear drive shaft, basically the same thing. Slide it in, and slide it in. Just like that. God, what a disaster. There we go. So like I said, I just want to keep things aligned, so I'll just put that screw in there. Go to the opposite side. Remember, none of these are tight. They're literally just kind of like tossed in. Put this one here. They're literally just kind of just sitting in place. Go back. Grab my Loctite ones. Reinstall. Reinstall these ones. These are not Loctited because it's going into plastic. Give this one a crank, like that. Now I can crank down my motor plate screws. There. And that one there. Now I'll come to the top. I can just crank these ones now down. Done. Done. Pop these out just so I can put a little bit of thread lock on them. A little bit. Dive it right into the hole. Give it a little bit of a crank. pull this one out, a little bit of thread lock, dive it right in, just like that, give it a crank. These ones aren't as particular, it's just for that center brace, top brace, whatever you want to call it. I can feed my motor wires through. So I'll go like that. 1, 2, 3. We'll go orange, yellow, and blue. Right, like that. That's good. Now, there was a zip tie that's connected here to that wire. So I can go ahead and grab a zip tie. I'm going to go ahead and just grab a couple of yellow zip ties. So one zip tie obviously went here somewhere. I think it was going this way. So bring it under that wire. Bring it up and around. Make sure that wire's on the top, like that. There we go. Another zip tie was towards this back here. So I'll bend the zip tie a little bit so it'll help me feed it in. Like that. Wrap it around. That's it. Now I'll just take my snips. Always make sure when you do this, make sure you cut these zip ties at a nice sharp 45-degree angle like that. See? So it's nice and sharp. See what I'm saying? You want to make sure that you have those zip ties cut that nice sharp, like stabby thing right there. Please don't do that. Especially like if you work on your own car, don't leave that for your mechanic. I'm telling you, he'll lose his mind. So that is pretty much it. Lasernut is now ready to rip it another day, except for maybe checking the mesh, which mesh actually isn't that bad. This is also where one of those L wrenches will come into play. I can recheck the mesh. I think I actually will tighten up that mesh, to be honest with you. I might have to thread lock my screws, but I'm going to get an L wrench to go inside so I can break free that motor mount and slide it together. You can't really do the mesh until this forward piece is attached because there's still a little bit of side-to-side slop on the front here. So, I mean, it actually seems like it's all right. I just actually would rather have a very slight tighter mesh. So now what I need to do is find some L wrenches. And I'll be back once I find my L wrenches. I think I actually found the L wrench that I need. I think it's this one. Or watch it not be. Oh, that's it. So, move that down. Get into this bottom one here. Bring that down. What I want to do is I just want to move the motor over just the slightest amount. I think that's might be what I want. Yeah. I'm actually happier with that. Oh, wait a minute. Make sure. Yeah, that's better. So go ahead and give it a crank up. And I'm not going to use Loctite, like I said. Get that in there. Give it a crank up. replace the cover. That's it. Losi is ready to rip it another day. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this episode from RC Guy Garage. This is basically just like the basics. We replaced a broken or shredded spur gear that was on the center diff of the Losi Tenacity Lasernut. I'm out. You should get out, and point blank, like I always say, just get out there and rip it.